What if I told you an entire city just stopped breathing for one group? Face screaming in fear. What if thousands, no, tens of thousands of people flooded the streets for a moment that wasn't even on stage yet? Welcome to Jungkook Lover, your ultimate source for the most shocking, emotional, and viral BTS moments happening right now. Before we go any further, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because what you're about to witness might be one of the most unbelievable scenes in BTS history. Because tonight in Tampa, something happened. Something no one expected. Something that turned simple streets into a global phenomenon. And the question is, why were so many ARMY already there before the show even began? It didn't start with music. It didn't start with lights. And it definitely didn't start inside the stadium. It started outside, far beyond the stage, beyond the gates, beyond what anyone could have predicted, where the streets surrounding Raymond James Stadium slowly began to transform into something that felt less like a city and more like a living, breathing phenomenon. At first, it was just a few fans, a handful of people holding light sticks, quietly waiting, exchanging smiles, whispering excitement into the warm Florida air. But then more came, and more, and more, until suddenly it wasn't a gathering anymore. It was a takeover. By late afternoon, the streets weren't just crowded, they were overflowing. Fans lined sidewalks, filled intersections, occupied every visible space around the stadium. Cars slowed down, drivers stared in disbelief, and local businesses watched as their surroundings turned into something they had never seen before. What was happening here? Why were so many people arriving so early? And more importantly, what were they waiting for? Because this wasn't normal concert behavior. This was something else, something deeper, something emotional, something almost urgent. The purple glow appeared first. One by one, ARMY lightsticks began to light up, creating a soft, shimmering ocean that spread across the streets like a wave. From above, it must have looked unreal. Thousands of tiny lights moving together, pulsing alive. And with it came the sound. Chants. Soft at first, then louder. BTS. 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 It echoed between buildings, bounced off walls, carried through the air until it became impossible to ignore. People who weren't even part of the event stopped in their tracks, pulling out phones, recording, asking questions. Because this wasn't just a crowd. This was energy. Pure, overwhelming, unstoppable. Some fans had traveled across states, others across countries. Some hadn't slept. Some had waited years. Years. For this moment. For this chance. For even a glimpse. And yet, something felt different this time. There was tension. Not fear. Not anxiety. But anticipation so intense it almost hurt. As if everyone knew something was coming. But no one knew exactly what. Rumors began to spread. Whispers moved through the crowd faster than the wind. Did you hear? They might come out early. I saw movement near the entrance. They're already inside. No one could confirm anything. But no one could ignore the feeling either. Because every few minutes, the crowd would surge slightly, reacting to something unseen. Heads would turn. Phones would rise. Voices would spike in sudden bursts of excitement. Waiting. Always waiting. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange, pink, and deep purple. The kind of sunset that feels cinematic, almost too perfect to be real. And as the light faded, the glow from the ARMY lightsticks became stronger, brighter, more powerful. It was no longer just a crowd. It was a spectacle, a living symbol of connection, a statement. And then, it happened. At first, it was subtle, a ripple through the crowd, a shift in energy, a sudden increase in noise that didn't match anything visible. People turned. Voices began to scream, not in unison, but in chaos. What is that? Over there. Look. And then the wave hit. A massive surge of sound that rolled through the streets like thunder. Screams exploded from every direction, so loud they seemed to shake the ground itself. Something was happening. Something real. Something close. And for a moment, no one could see it clearly. Only feel it. The crowd pushed forward, not aggressively, but desperately, trying to get closer, trying to understand, trying to be part of whatever was unfolding in front of them. Security moved. Barriers tightened. But it didn't matter, because the energy couldn't be contained. A movement. A figure. Was it really them? Was it possible? Or was it just the power of expectation playing tricks on thousands of hopeful minds? The uncertainty only made it worse. More intense. More emotional. Fans began crying, not from sadness, but from overwhelm. From the sheer weight of the moment, from the realization that they were part of something massive, something historic. Because even if they couldn't see everything clearly, they felt it. Every second, every heartbeat. And somewhere in the middle of that chaos, one name rose above the rest. Jungkook. The chants shifted. Jungkook. 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 Faster. Stronger. As if calling him closer. As if summoning him. As if believing, truly believing, that their voices alone could reach him wherever he was. And maybe, just maybe, they did. Because the reaction changed. The energy sharpened. The screams grew higher, more focused, more certain. Something had been confirmed. Not by announcement, not by screens, but by feeling. And that was enough. For minutes that felt like hours, the streets remained in that heightened state. Half chaos, half euphoria, fully unforgettable. And when it finally settled, when the noise dropped just enough for people to breathe again, one thing was clear. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just fans waiting for a concert. This was a movement, a global force that had traveled across oceans and time zones to gather in one place for one reason: connection. But the biggest question still remained. Why did it feel like something bigger was about to happen? Because even as the gates opened, even as fans began to move inside, even as the official event finally began, that feeling didn't go away. If anything, it grew stronger. Inside the stadium, the energy continued. But outside was where the story had already begun, where the emotion had already exploded, where the world had already taken notice. Videos spread instantly. Clips of the streets flooded social media. Is this even real? I've never seen anything like this. This is bigger than a concert. Across platforms, across countries, across languages, one narrative began to form. Tampa wasn't just hosting BTS. Tampa had become the center of something global, something unstoppable, something that couldn't be fully explained. Because how do you explain thousands of people showing up hours early, filling streets, crying, screaming, waiting, not for a performance, but for a moment? How do you explain that level of devotion, that level of emotion, that level of connection? And more importantly, what does it mean? Because if this is what happens outside the stadium, what happens when the show actually begins? What happens when the lights go down? When the music starts? When Jungkook steps onto the stage? Will the energy inside match what exploded outside? Or will it become something even bigger? Something even more powerful? Something no one is truly ready for? And here's the question that no one could stop asking. Was this just the beginning? Or a warning of something far greater about to take over the world? Thousands of army flooded the streets around Raymond James Stadium as Jungkook and BTS arrived for their 2026 world tour, face screaming in fear fire. Before the concert even started, fans completely took over Tampa, creating an unbelievable atmosphere filled with purple lights, emotional chants, and nonstop excitement. From viral crowd moments to shocking fan reactions, this Tampa night is already being called one of the most unforgettable events in